Adobe InDesign uses frames to place images and create text. In this video, we will look at how we can create and place frames, and I will show you methods for placing multiple frames. Welcome to this video, and I'm Arpad Nonassigned. The following methods of placement will actually apply to any of the frame types: text, graphics, or unassigned. Let us start with an unassigned frame. So this is, of course, we have the text frame tool here, the graphic frames tools, and the unassigned frame tool. So I just select the default one on the top, the rectangle, and I'm assigning a style that I already set in and saved in object style. So this is a stroke and a fill. It is set here. And when you place a frame, you can just drag out the frame and it places the frame. And of course, the mouse dragging defines the proportion and the size. Okay. Now, if you want to control the proportion of the shape, you can actually drag out this frame and you hold down the shift. That will lock in the proportion as a square. So this shape is square. Okay. If you want to control the placement of the first, you want to control where you place the object, and you want the center of the object to be where you click first, then hold down the Alt, click the object. And if you want to also lock it in as a square, so if without locking in, I can move it like this. If I lock it with Shift, it becomes square, and I place the object. So again, Alt defines the, hold down the Alt, you click, that becomes the center of the object, and holding down Shift to control the size. Now, when you place the object, and if you hold down the space bar, while in this case I hold down the Shift with square, and I hold down the space bar, you can also move the object. Okay. Now, of course, naturally, if you use an ellipse, and you hold down the space bar, then the object will become a circle. Now, what can be also important is how do you define the size of a shape? So I make a copy of this object here, and I make a copy of this object by holding down the Shift and the Alt buttons. So I made a copy of these ones. Now, when you select this object and you go up to the control bar, you see that this object is, you have the X and Y coordinates of where the object is placed relative to this anchor points. If I select this top anchor point, it's 0.7 inches from in the X direction from the edge. This is the 0 point, and 4.78 the other way in the Y direction. So that's if you want to place it maybe 1 inch from the X direction and 4 inch from the Y direction. Now this is 1 inch and 4 inches from that direction. Let's place it at 5 inches. Okay. And if you also want to control the size, you can control the width and the height. So let's make the width 2 inches. And let's make the height 1 inches. So this object now is 2 inches by 1 inches. And I also placed it exactly to a certain location. The next exercise, we will look at how we can create multiple frames. Now, multiple frames can be useful, for example, when you place multiple images in the same, you would like to place multiple images in the same size frames. So let's actually start with, maybe again, I start with a regular frame so we see the operation. So what you, with an unassigned frame, that I use the same graphics with, same graphic style. So you stretch out your mouse. This is the process. You stretch out your mouth, and then on the keyboard, use the left or the right arrows. Right arrows will add more frames. Left arrow will reduce the number of frames. This can also be done in the vertical and horizontal matrix direction. So up arrows will add more in the vertical direction, and down arrows will reduce the number of frames. So again, obviously I'm holding the mouse down, okay? And if you hold down the shift, you can also control the proportion, okay? So then these are all squares, okay? So let me just reduce it to only one row of frames. And let's examine again, I'm still holding the mouse. And again, left and right arrows add more or less frames. You can also control the spacing or gutter between these frames. And for that one, you have to hold down the control button and logically use the arrow tools. So left arrow will reduce the space, and each click is 1 point reduction. So now it's 0 points in between them. And the right arrow will add points. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now I have 8 points gap between them. Again, let's hold down the shift tool. So I have 6 frames. There are square and equal in size and equal in spacing. Now I'm going to reassign these frames. You can actually reassign frames. If you go to Object, go to Content, and I'm going to assign it to a graphic frame. And because this has a style assigned, I will remove the style. So there's no style assigned to this one. And actually, if you assign no assign to it, really this is just a blank frame. Okay. And we have this frame. So let's say I'm going to maybe place images in them. And for that one, I will assign it to image frames. Again, in an additional video, it's explained how you can turn frames into any of these object style frames. In this case, the image frame will control the fitting of the frames. It also added a rounded corner. Again, this is just a preset. So I go to File, Place, and I select Images. And again, I can place these images inside. Okay, so again, one more time, you stretch out the mouse, drag the mouse, select any of the frames, drag out the mouse, use the arrow tools, left and right or up and down, and hold down the control button. And you can also control placement of the object. Now for the next one, we can also multiply an existing frame. So again, I'm going to start with an existing frame, hold down the shift, so it's a square frame. And I'd like to see multiple frames that may be arranged in sort of a neither horizontal nor vertical, maybe a diagonal way, or I want to spread it out exactly at a certain distance. For that one, what we do is you select the object. It could actually be done with any object, including a frame. It could be a line or any object. And you select the object and then hold down the Alt key. And the Alt key, typically, when you select an object, is a function for copying, creating a copy or multiple copies. So that's exactly how we're going to use this. And you can see how there's a second arrow that appears with the cursor next to the cursor. It's a black cursor, it's a white arrow now. You drag the shape and then you let go of the Alt key and use the arrow tools And in this case, I want to add three more in between. I added 3 more frames. It's kind of a bit light, but you can probably see that. And then you let go, multiply these frames. And again, these frames can be assigned to anything, like I can assign it again to image frames. And because image frames, the filling is already preset in the style, it will actually be placed like this. So this concludes our video for creating frames and creating multiple frames and multiplying an existing frame.